Welcome back to TYT Sports. Let's Talk Tactics is back for the biggest game. Yes, it is the biggest game. I know if you're coming in and having not watched the Premier League yet this season and see Leicester versus Manchester United, you'll be like, how is this the biggest game of the season? Well, at the moment, it's a battle for that top spot. Leicester at the top of the table, Manchester United in second. Let's talk some tactics. So I'm going to look at Leicester first, the home team. Fine in form this season. They really deserve a lot of credit. They go with this standard 4-4-2, which does change at times when they go forward in the attack. So this is how I imagine they'll line up. That same back four with Schmeichel in goals, which has been strong for them. Kante, Drinkwater in the middle with Albrighton and Mahrez, who switch so well. You never really know who's going to start or who's on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. They switch very well. And then that front duo of Aloa and the most informed striker in the Premier League at the moment, maybe one of the most in Europe at the moment, is Jamie Vardy. So we're going to talk about what goes on with Leicester's attack. I'm going to talk about what they can do to exploit Manchester United, talking about what they've done in the past, and I'm going to transition quickly over into how Manchester United should try and counteract that. So what happens with Leicester's movement? I talked about this with full-time towels to try and give them a heads up over there on the Manchester United fan channel. When Leicester get the ball in possession in the wide areas, they're looking for Vardy to be involved in every single move because his movement in the moment is driving fear into the defenders and creating space for his fellow teammates. When the ball gets into, whether it's a centre midfielder's feet or whether it's into Albrighton or Mahrez, Vardy makes his run. He stretches the defenders, creates this gap in here. Either to do this, he either goes wide in this motion and he loves to spin and cut in, gets that ball direct, and that's his bread and butter. Coming in from the wide left area into his right foot to try and finish. That's what he does so well. And what happens with Manchester United naturally is when they play Darmian or Ashley Young, I don't think there's as great a communication as there should be in between that back line, because at the moment Darmian doesn't get as forward as much as you would expect from a fullback. I think if they play Ashley Young, he's going to get forward, and that gap might be even more enlarged than what they have done before. But what happens is he's going to have to counteract Chris Smalling. Chris Smalling is a good defender, and he will try and play Vardy one-on-one. But what Leicester should be doing is focusing on what has worked for them this season, which is a swift, weak side switch. If you see Albrighton in the box with Vardy making that run, if that's not his first pass, his next move is to try and find his brother, as I would say, because Mahrez and Albrighton are so in sync together, just as Mahrez and Vardy are. And he'll do this quick switch of play into the back post and catch up Manchester United because they'll be caught too busy focusing on James Vardy and shifting across. It's that weak side pass, that weak side switch, which I've talked about in Man United's tactics. I've talked about with Southampton. Teams do it so well, but Leicester have just basically encompassed this strategy to the best of their ability. They know exactly how to isolate teams by using their star striker to drive fear in them, because they're focused on Vardy's run. Him scoring so many goals naturally causes defenders to track his run, and what happens is naturally the defenders become stretched, and it's that switch into the back post. Mahrez does it as well with Albrighton. Both of them link up very well. But that's how I think Leicester are going to find the joy, is use Vardy not only as a way to thread the pass through, but use him as a distraction to create space in that weak area. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Don't be expecting another 5-2, which happened last season when these two teams met. I think it will be maybe a 1-0 or a 1-1 in this game that's going to decide it. But that's how Leicester can strongly utilise that weak side switch. Talking about Manchester United, let's take a look at the lineup that I think they're going to head up. This is how I imagine Manchester United will line up in this game. I would make some suggestions if I was a manager, but Louis van Gaal, as stubborn as always, will not change an awful lot unless he has to through injury. So I would put Young back in now. That's what I'm going to suggest, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Smalling, Blaine, Rojo, Schweinsteiger, Schneiderlin, Rooney, Lingard, Memphis and Martial. At the moment, Manchester United are not clicking in the final third. It was a very, very dull and boring game against PSV. I'm being as brutally honest as I can. It was hard to stay watching that game. I often switched over to PSG and Real Madrid's game to get some goals. But there's a reason why. It's because their movement in the final third is too slow. They move it far too much side to side. Their success against Watford came from utilising the exact same, I would say, problem that Leicester City are going to pose and turning it around and utilising it as their weakness. So what happens is Leicester are going to try and naturally throw forward their wide men to try and utilise that wide switch or link up with Vardy. What should happen is Manchester United should absorb this pressure and counter-attack. Ashley Young, I think, will be useful in this game as a right back, because he'll overlap Lingard. That's a lot of pace to deal with in there. And where Leicester have conceded goals this season has came from the wide areas. Martial is great with his head. What they have to do is fire the ball into Lingard as quick as possible. The faster you get the ball into these wide players, the more space they have. Barcelona do it so well with Neymar. I don't think they take as many passes as they have to always. Trust me, I know about their 27 pass move, which Messi finished, but I'm talking about getting it into Neymar somewhat swiftly. It allows him that extra 5-6 yards to take on their opponent. If they can get the ball into Lingard, who is good one-on-one, utilise Ashley Young as that distraction, it allows this space in here for United to whip that ball in, which they did against Watford. This is going to be a game which is going to be played a lot out in the wide areas. There will be battles in the middle, but with Martial stemming in that run, they need to make sure that Memphis cuts in behind. As always, that great run he did against Watford is going to come in handy in this game. Both of these teams are going to attack on the wide areas, and it's so hard to kind of break down tactically for both teams because I think that it's going to be a very neutral game, which is surprising saying that. On the one side, Manchester United spending hundreds of millions, and Leicester just being a very hard team to break down, being very structured in their attacking going forward. It's the makings for a great game. It's got the makings for a game which is going to redefine both of these teams' season. If Leicester win, they prove that they're not just a lucky team who found their way into the top of the table. If Manchester United win, they knock Leicester off that top spot, and they prove that they're definitely title challengers this season. My prediction, though, is going to be very boring in the middle, 1-1. I think that Manchester United will take another lead, but I think Leicester will find some resilience. They'll come back and they'll tie the game up at 1-1. I'd like to see a high-scoring game. We want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think of this game? Will Leicester City have an upset and beat Manchester United? They are the top team, but I have to say they'll still be considered an underdog. Let me know what you guys think on Twitter. I will be live tweeting the game at Francis_Maxwell and at TYT Sports. Thanks again.